So, good evening, everyone. This is the second session of Will Little's emotional intelligence class. Today, we're going to go through the human system, basically, how you create your best life, how you evolve, how you change, how you transform in order to create the life that you want for yourself. And I know a lot of us, coming up in this kind of environment, especially in America, based on my studies and my research and my acknowledgement, I see that there are a lot of us who just don't know how to live. And being as though me being around my peers and me being having that same mind frame as a young kid, not knowing what direction to go, not knowing what to do with life, or not even knowing how to value my life. I mean, which is a very important gift that we all share if we live in this world. We're living people. So my take is that now, since I've been in a quest to really understand myself and to understand other people as well, understand the whole purpose in life. What is the purpose of life? Because everything in creation has a purpose. And once you start studying creation, knowing that you are part of creation, but the crown of creation, like the highest point, the best of creation, we must understand like our position in this universe. Our position in this universe, being a man and woman, is that we are the crown of creation, right? And I always break this down in my classes to give people some level of esteem. I mean, especially for those who have low self-esteem based on popularity or based on the fit-in crowd that you're not in. You got to know in yourself that you are unique in yourself. That's why we all have different fingerprints. You're a unique person because you are created, you lived, you exist. Out of the millions of sperm cells that try to go penetrate the egg, you're the one who actually penetrated the egg. You have to know that you're special just in that sense. Not the sense of the world, because the world is cruel, the world is egotistical, the world is racial, the world is what you call boxed in, because of the mind frames of different people around the world that has the overall say or the voice of the media, basically. But you got to know within yourself your own self worth. And when you start to identify your own self worth, then you're able to value yourself. And regardless of what people say about you or what they think about you, you already know who you are. That's in itself. Self identity. Once you have an identity of self, then you won't have to take the identity of people who claim to know who you are or give you names that's not fitting you. Because a lot of times, even it's branded sometime in our childhood, when we are kids, people call you this and they call you that and they call you this and they call you that. Even some of our parents, call us different names and stuff like that because disappointment or because of their anger and their frustration or their fear or their pain. They begin to call their own children names. Like you see today, like the worst part that I've seen, a young lady who called her daughter, who was like 3 or 4 years old, bitch, and always called her that, so the girl will grow up not knowing who she is, believing that she's a bitch. I mean, and then she'll start naming her children that. And it was generational because I've seen the mom call her that, seen the daughter call her own daughter that. So it's three generational. I mean, so especially in our community, there's a lot of trauma. There's a lot of trauma that we have experienced. A lot of us try to overlook it. A lot of us try to cover it up. A lot of us try to put things in place of that pain and that trauma and those gaps to fill those voids. And they're just only festering inside of us. That creates a worse of us, a worse person in us as well, or also create a disease in us that we don't really understand, that how our thoughts and our emotions makes us sick, you know, and that rushes us to an early grave and a slow death. So it's always important to understand the human system, and that's why I got real deep into the studies of learning about a lot of these principles here that I'm teaching now, especially emotional intelligence, the four principles of emotional intelligence, understanding the universal laws and how things work on the outside of us, on the outside world. I mean, emotional intelligence work on the inside world. That's the inside of us. I mean, the universal laws work on the outside world, the outside of our world, outside of our inner world. You know, and then you have what you call neuroscience, understanding the psyche of the mind, the self-awareness. I mean, the subconscious, the unconscious state of mind, and the conscious state of mind. How that works, how that brain works, because that sets up everything else. Your perception, your belief system sets up everything about how you feel. I mean, sets up that that community of self, which is your emotions, your ego, your drive, your 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 emotions, your ego, your drive, and a few other things. I can't recall them right now. But those are different things in my community that I put together to identify who I was growing up as a child. I mean, as a young man, trying to make a difference in my own life, transform my life so I can make a difference in other people's lives. And that's how I got this far to where I'm at today. But also understanding the four rings of growth and why people do not grow. I mean, people who want to grow, why they do not grow. And that's got a lot to do with understanding the four rings of growth, but it's also the conscious state of mind, the subconscious program that we have unlocked in our program. Also, I have the 7 steps of transformation, 7 steps of extreme transformation that should work for anyone who wants to change their lives. And everybody who believes that they are stuck, because you're not really stuck. If you believe that you're stuck, then you will be stuck. It's just that we don't have the information, the right information that leads to the correct transformation in our own lives. And that's what I'm giving in some of these classes that I give free in the community, only here in Philadelphia. You know, if you need me to come to your city, then you can always give me an invite, send me an invite to come to your city. But these classes right here are basically trying to reach out to other people in the communities around the country and maybe outside the country who understand English, who are also trying to navigate their way through life, who also been through some trials and tribulations and some struggles and trauma, and trying to persevere or have persevered through those particular struggles, but still trying to find their way. You know, and I've been for a long time still trying to navigate my way to understand really the human system and what is life really about. Because at one time I was on the brink of, not caring about my own life or not caring about living or not caring about someone else's life. But I see that life is something that we should all value, you know. In an environment such as this, we live in Philadelphia, PA, where violence is at an all-time high right now. Not just physical violence, but emotional violence, because the emotional violence is probably more deeper than the physical violence. The physical violence is actually the acting out of the emotional abuse that a lot of people have already suffered. So just understanding that whole mindset. That mindset, that mentality. Even right now, we're doing a feature in the documentary called Behind the Bullet. And Behind the Bullet is basically talking about the mentality behind the gun. We have a lot of homicides and also self-inflicted wounds, a lot of suicides in our country by the use of a gun. But and by many other instruments too as well. But it's all dealing with the psyche of the mindset and how you see things, how you perceive things. What's your vision for yourself? What's your vision for your future? And also, what is the culture that you grew up in? That you have adapted to and is addicted to as well, because that's an addiction. People think addiction is just drugs, but addiction is also behavior, you know? So understanding the human system and breaking down these particular principles, universal laws, neuroscience, 4 rings of growth, transformation. That's my 7 steps of transformation. A lot of information is available on different websites and stuff like that. You can study yourself. I'm self taught. So a lot of things I'm going to be sharing with you is based on my research and my study and my perception of what I believe in to be true and what is correct. You can take it for what it's worth. If it applies to your life and you see the vision that I see, then go with it and do your own research some more, and study harder, because you might discover something that I did not know myself, and you'll be able to help me out. That's how this thing's supposed to work. We're all connected to each other. So if you're growing, your transformation, your change will affect other people as yourself too as well. And yourself is first. And that change will affect other people, and other people will affect other people too as well. So it's a domino effect, because we all living in the same universal energy. We all are connected by energy. Everything moves and lives based on the energy that's out in our universe, that the Creator has created for us to live by. All right, and that is the energy is the energy source that we all are moved by or able to move by. And that is the universal law of oneness. Basically, that everything is connected to one energy source, and that energy source is the Creator. So get more into this. I spoke about the outside world and the inside world, and a lot of us don't know that we live in 2 worlds. And the 2 worlds that we live in is the inner world, We talk about our feelings that we have that express our emotions on the outside of ourselves, and our inner thoughts that also creates action that reflects on what we're thinking and what we're saying and what we're doing, and also the world around us and the people that's around us. That kind of world that affects us. A lot of times that people allow different things on the outside world to affect their inner world. That means that by you um, communicating with someone, coming in contact with someone, or someone saying something to you, or someone doing something to you, or you're seeing something outside of yourself that affects you emotionally, you know, or something that dictates your happiness, or something outside of you that dictates your sadness. That's you're being controlled by your outside world. And the only way you should be controlled, that's self control, is by self. And people don't understand what self control really is. They say I have self control, but a lot of us don't have self control because we allow things outside of us to control how we feel. And how we feel is the motivating factor to what we do, based on what we do, right? Because like I said, Maya Angelou said in her statement that people will forget what you say to them, people will forget what you do to them, but they'll never forget how you make them feel. They never forget how places and people and things make them feel. We're never forgetting that, right? So feelings is the strongest force that we have in ourselves. That's why a lot of people are still living in their past. That's why a lot of people still suffer from past trauma, because they never forget that experience. They never forget where it was at, never forget who did it, and never forget probably the time and place that it happened. So feelings are very, very important. Understanding those feelings are very, very important. Understanding how to manage those feelings are very, very important to your existence, to your safety, and to your health. They are very important. So you must understand the human system. If you're a human being and you living in this life and you want to live your best life, like a lot of us say, quoting the song, living my best life, but we're not living our best life. We like to think that, but we're not. And a lot of times we just a conscious thought because a song is on or a song is ringing in our minds. But you can actually live your best life. You can actually start living your best life right now, this moment, by getting the right information, understanding yourself first, taking self inventory. So there's one thing a quote that I use is a very powerful quote, very meaningful quote that I always share sometimes with students, sometimes when I do conferences across the country. I always share this quote. But if you understand this quote, then you understand the cycle of evolution, or you understand the cycle of repeated behavior, being stuck, because there's two cycles, it's two circles. I mean, these cycles right here, another cycle ring and another cycle ring. Either you're stuck by doing the same thing over and over again and looking for, different results, or wanting different results but not getting them, or you're evolving. You're changing every day. You're changing everything with life every day. So you're changing, you're transforming, you're reinventing yourself every day based on the knowledge that you're getting and you're applying to your life. So that's the most important thing, the knowledge. And where it starts from? It starts from the brain. It starts from the brain, the conscious state of mind, which is 5%, or some people say 7% of the brain that we use. And then the other 93% is your subconscious, the subconscious mind, the programmed mind, the mind that is programmed, the mind that you don't have to think about doing certain things because it's already programmed in your mind, the second nature. The habits that you already have that you don't have to think about doing. You're going to work, you know exactly where to turn. You can probably drive there with your eyes closed. Why? Because it's already programmed in your mind, right? In order for you to change that program, you must throw a monkey wrench in that program by bringing more information in it that also allows you to even expand your awareness on yourself and on life and the things you can do. So now you don't have to go one direction to school. You can go another direction to school. You can go another direction. You can go right and turn left and then go right again. You can go left and turn right and then turn right again. To get to the same destination. You don't have to follow the same program. So in life, we're trying to get the same destination. We're trying to get to the pursuit of happiness. We're trying to get to a place where we are excited about life, we're happy about life, and we're grateful about life. You're trying to get to that particular level. And we can't get to that particular level because why? We allow things on the outside of us to dictate how we feel about ourselves and about circumstances. And a lot of that is ego too. It's a lot of ego driven emotions because of expectations, what we expect to happen, what we expect people to say to us, what we expect people to do for us, what we expect people to, how we expect people to act. You know, expectations is self-inflicting wounds. Ego is a self-inflicting wound. We have no control of your ego. A lot of us let our ego get too big that our wings can't carry us. So don't let your ego get too big that your wing can't carry you. You're gonna have an ego. That's a part of life. I mean, it's good, but with balance. That's why everything in the universe, like I said, if you study creation, you study nature, everything in the universe has balance. So you have to try to live ourselves on a level that is balanced, whereas though we can be able to navigate our way correctly. I mean, and then whatever way we waver, emotional intelligence is the thing that brings us right back to where we are. Just like stress, you know, when we worry about certain things, stress comes in to bring our body back to balance, right? It's not a bad thing. People think stress is a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. It's only a bad thing and a sickening thing when you overstress. When you continue to stress over and over about the same particular issue that's already has passed, right? That's when you relive the circumstance. Your body stays in stress mode, which becomes survival mode. And when you're in survival mode, your body cannot take survival mode for days at a time, for weeks at a time, for months at a time, right? Stressing over the same thing, and years, right? Because a lot of us are stressing over the same problems that happened 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, because we have not had the courage to confront, but not even the courage, not even having the knowledge or the awareness to confront our traumatic experience in our lives. So the important thing is understanding the human system through these principles right here, through these four principles: universal laws, emotional intelligence, understanding the brain, the psyche of the brain, the conscious and the subconscious mind, and also through my 7 steps of transformation, which you will get in one of my coaching sessions. So that's available for you too as well for a small fee. If you want to be coached through my 7 steps of transformation, I guarantee you it'll change your life. It'll open your mind. If this is doing something for you right here, then just imagine what I can do to you on a one-on-one basis. So going to the quick quote that I was talking about, it goes into a saying that you can easily remember, that you constantly say in your mind, that you understand how the cycle of evolution works. All right, what you think is what you say. What you say is what you do. What you do will become habit. What becomes your habits will become your character. What becomes your character will actually determine your outcome in life. So there you have it again. And you probably want me to say it again, like people always say it again. So it starts with the brain, right? The brain, it starts with the brain. Boom. And it ends with outcomes, right? The results, success or failures. That's what it ends with. Starts with the brain, and it ends with the results that we have based on what we think, what we perceive, what we believe, and what we adapt into our lives, right? So it's based on all those things, and then what comes out of the thought process, your what you say, what you're talking about, and what you're doing. I mean, you're saying what you're doing too. A lot of us, we're gonna say what we do. We're gonna do what we believe, and then those beliefs can become hardened beliefs, where it's gonna become practice all the time. You're gonna something you're doing, it becomes practice all the time. It becomes programmed in your mind, becomes a part of your program. And once it becomes a part of your program, you'll do it unconsciously. You're unconsciously just doing it. Basically, it's second nature. You know, like when I trained as a boxer, just learning the skill of boxing. I mean, a lot of us thinking in the beginning. I had to think about the punch. I had to think about the duck. I had to think about the moving my feet. And then eventually, as I continued to do it over and over again, I mean, it was natural for me to just do it. It was always a sense of, all right, just move. All right, just turn the punch over. Or just move your feet. I mean, just slip. It was natural. I mean, you see some guys that box really good and they slipping real good. And you're like, how do you get around that punch? How do you get away from that punch? I mean, how do you drop that punch in there? Because it's second nature. Your mind is already programmed to do certain things based on reactions, because every action deserves an equal and opposite reaction. And that works in the laws of physics and boxing. Because when a person throws a punch, you already know the move already, this side. When that side throwing a punch, you already know the move this side. It's already second nature. It's already programmed in your mind. You ain't even got to think about it. So this is what life is all about. A lot of us are doing it. We have that kind of addictive behavior and those particular habits. Whereas though that most people associate habits with something that's bad, but habits are not something that's bad. There are good habits too as well. But when you create good habits, then you'll start doing the work that you need to do in order to create the results that you want in your life that agrees with your happiness, basically. So it's important for us to understand the human system. I mean, the human system, the emotions, the intelligence, um, the, the, um, the community itself, our ego, our drive, our desires, their ego itself, their community itself, understanding those particular things and have those things in control of yourself. So that's the way you will be able to um, make the right decisions and choices and get the right outcomes that you want in your life and become a successful person in life in general, not just financially, but successful in life. That you'll be happy every day, that you will not let things dictate how you feel in your mood. You won't wake up living in your past experiences, because we are a record of our experience, but we want to create new experiences in life that brings more happiness, that agree with our future and our goals, that agree with our happiness, basically, that we're in pursuit of. So that's something really short and brief with these classes that I'm giving. You can subscribe to this YouTube page. If you didn't get everything and you want to catch some more of this, I will be putting this talk up on YouTube probably the night before I leave to go to California, because I'm catching a flight tomorrow to California to actually go promote the screening of the documentary Behind the Bullet that I'm featured in, which is a great thing. I'm excited about being a part of that to bring more awareness to the country who are so um, who are so not excited, not the words I'm trying to look for, who are so engaged and not even engaged. I forget the words I'm looking for. Just it slipped my mind. Forgive me. But for a society that really loves guns, basically, because I was a person who loved guns myself, infatuated with weapons. That's the word I'm looking for. So I was really infatuated with guns when I was a young person, carrying one or two or three guns at a time, or having 7 guns in my house, uh, in the basement at certain times, just watching them, looking at them, holding them, loading them, unloading them, clicking them. I mean, firing them in the backyards, my friend's house, at the trees and stuff like that, to see how they work, see how much kick it got, how much um, um, recoil it has on the gun. It's the full of power of it that gives you illusion of power. So this documentary Behind the Bullet is a very important perspective on looking at the effects that the gun has on the shooters who committed crimes with guns. So you guys can think twice before you pulling the trigger, because believe me, it's not something a lot of people can live with, that actually hurts somebody violently. I don't care what a gun or a knife, anything like that, hurt someone violently, especially if you did it by mistake, or if you made a mistake and hurt a loved one, thinking there's somebody else, an intruder that comes in your house. A lot of people cannot live with that. So don't think that because you got a gun that is the best thing for you, because a lot of times it's not for a lot of us, because we're not mentally stable enough to even have a gun, because a lot of us live in fear that is created by the false evidence appearing to be real that you hear on the news a lot or hear in your community. So that's about it. And I will get with you guys on the next segment of Will Little's class on emotional intelligence on YouTube. So just have a good night and peace. And I'll take you on a journey with me tomorrow too, when I travel out to California, for those who are interested in seeing the things I'm doing. Peace, living it. Pray for me. Get over you. Let's go cash. That's cash. Oh yeah. I can't hear your shit. Man, she bad. Hold on. How enough is that? Oh, enough is that?